So meat-based 15. I was gonna say 14, but it's 15, and it's a pretty
Yeah.
pretty big one because Nicole, would you like to announce your news
Yeah.
to the world?
Yeah. So I'm pregnant. Hello. Yay, we're super excited. But I found out, I guess, end of March. And so I'm about 3 months, a little over 3 months. And it's been a wild ride of that first trimester and being carnivore and all that good stuff. So I'm super excited to jump into that today. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm super excited, and I think it's something that's super relevant and something that is I'm sure a lot of people have questions about and like the process. And for some weird reason, I mean, we've been having babies on a meat-based diet for what 2 million years, and now all of a sudden it's probably like a bit of a people ask questions now all of a sudden. But what's been has there been any sort of I know you're a meat-based enthusiast. You've been doing this for a long time, and it's helped with so many like ailments and stuff. But has there been sort of a concern on your side, or how have you sort of gone about thinking about it?
Yeah, well, the first thing for like a few close people that I tell, their first question is, "Are you going to stay carnivore during pregnancy?" And my
Mm,
answer is always, "Abso-freaking-lutely," right? Like I am eating the most nutrient dense foods I've ever eaten. The baby's getting everything it needs. I do check my levels of like different nutrients and minerals. So I know like what's going on. Sorry, vitamins and minerals. But the biggest change has been so up until week, like I think 8, um, I didn't have any morning sickness.
mm-hmm,
And I was like, oh, I have such an easy pregnancy. Like, cool. Like, this is going to be fine. And then once like my eighth, I think it was eighth or ninth week happened, um, I immediately started getting morning sickness. And this is just like you wake up and you're nauseous. And it's kind of like when you're hungover
mm-hmm.
and you think you have to barf and you think you want to throw up because you're hungover, but you don't. So it just kind of is like it's there. Like the nausea is there. So I haven't actually thrown up from morning sickness. Knock on wood. So that's like the best part. But what happens is I've noticed, and you'll talk to whoever, everyone's different, but the days that I try and stay in bed and like not play into it, but the days I try to stay in bed, like it actually is way worse.
Mm,
So I'm now in the routine where I get up with Taylor. We get up around 8 a.m., which is really late for me because I kind of try to sleep through the worst of it. And we go and walk the dogs and, have our normal routine. But the worst part is that I've had to introduce rice to my diet. Eggs right now before noon make me want to vomit. So that was a fun one. I did not see that coming because I was eating eggs and salmon roe every morning,
mm-hmm.
up until week 8. But yeah, the rice. At first, that was like, I just wanted to stick to like single ingredient foods, right?
Mm,
And so I'm like, okay, like there's crackers, there's this. Like, obviously, I can find gluten free crackers. And we actually went on a hunt for crackers that were like organic,
mm,
like the no harmful ingredients, no like weird additives and stuff. And that took a while, but we finally found some.
mm-hmm.
But then it shifted and I was like, I just want to do rice. So I'll do like buttered rice with like a tiny bit of soy sauce on it in the morning after our
Okay.
walk.
Okay. And
So
and wait. Okay.
yeah,
So how? Let's just back up for a second. How
yeah.
did you come to the conclusion that rice was going to be the thing that it was that how did that come about for somebody that's been carnivore for so long? Like, because I know in the past you've mentioned, especially on the show, you've mentioned
Yeah.
your sort of aversion to rice, or not aversion, but you don't your body doesn't necessarily respond as well as it
Well,
could to rice. Yeah. So
yeah.
how did that come about?
So that came about because honestly, like my options were limited. Like the last thing that I wanted in the morning, like when you're about to throw up, you don't really want to eat a steak,
No.
you know? Like that's kind of like the last thing. So, and I thought I would like push through it. And I have tried to push through it before and eat like
Hmm.
leftover steak or cook something. I actually cooked eggs and that was just the worst idea ever. But um, the rice seemed to be the best option. Like I couldn't really think of anything else that was a single ingredient food that was purely carbs
Mm.
that could help just like settle my stomach or give my stomach something,
Mm.
right? Like I had tried at one point, I tried gluten-free like bagel, right? And I was like, oh, like I'll just put this like tons of lox on it, right? And like, lemon and like salt and pepper and like that'll be good. But I kind of felt that you can't find gluten-free bagels that don't have a bunch of crap in them, like in terms of
Yeah.
ingredients, like
Yeah.
different binding agents and all this stuff. So rice was the one thing where I was like, this is a carb. It's like a single ingredient food. All I have to do is just wash it, obviously, for like, arsenic and stuff. Like I
Mm.
wash it really well.
Mm.
It's easy to cook and like I can put butter on it. So I was happy about that. So that was kind of, it was just the the best worst option, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And again, like I didn't want to eat carbs. Like I was like, oh, I'm not going to. Like I think I even told you early on, I was like, no, like I'm not going to, whatever. But then like once the morning sickness gets
Mm.
in, like you don't want to be like eating a steak that early just does
Ye-
not happen.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I mean, I've got no experience with being pregnant for sure, but but what I can say is that the way you described it as a hangover, like I can relate because when you're hungover, the last thing you do feel like is a big steak or like something
Yep.
heavy like eggs or something. You just want like simple carbs,
Yes.
tons of just dopamine and just you just want some serotonin basically going in your system. You really don't want like a big
Yeah.
steak, and but that's a pretty. I'm pretty glad you brought that up because I think we've spoken a lot about the realities of this diet and the realities of living the way we do, and people assume that we are like the some people assume, at least I know, that we perfect carnivores and we only eat meat. And no, it's like you have moments where you need to have different things and
Yeah.
experience different food sensations. And if you can't eat steak and you really 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 don't feel like it, then don't force your body to eat it. Do you know what I'm saying? It's as simple as that. And clearly your body at this stage just needs something a bit different, it seems like it.
Yeah. I call it now that I'm carnivore after 12.
There we go. There we
Like
go.
after the noon, because anything before that I'm just like,
So it is for like people that are listening that maybe are going to be pregnant or something. But so it is that morning that's the worst for you. Like the mornings are pretty much no go
oh
for
yeah.
most
So
things.
like here's the thing. So my life is pretty normal, like for the most part. I still play pickleball weekly. I still hike. I modify my hikes now to not be like, well, I never did gruesome hikes. Never mind. So
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah.
But like if my sister was just in town visiting and her and Taylor did some pretty tough hikes and I would do like a smaller loop or I would sit out, or they would go and do like a more difficult one after I did the easier one.
Hmm.
So I've had to modify my hikes. I do my weightlifting still 3 to 4 times a week, like normal. Like so that's all normal. And I'm doing that as much as I can. Just because I want all of that strong and like ready to push a baby out,
Hmm.
obviously.
Hmm.
So now we have this home gym, so it's great. But um, the only thing that's changed is that I now work out in the evenings. Like my workouts are at night,
Okay.
which has never really been a thing for me, I guess you could say. So that's been the gnarliest thing. And then there was a day where sometimes if I don't do my workouts, like I'll do two back to back. And I did that. And I just like was like, holy moly. Like I thought I got hit by a bus. I was like, I need to sit down. Like I was like, so you finish like one weightlifting workout, right? Like I
Hmm.
did like I think legs and I had to do like or quads. And I was like, okay, now I'm gonna do like I didn't want to say my butt. Glutes.
Say it.
Sorry.
Your butt.
I,
You were doing your butt.
I want to, yeah, I want to do my glute workout. And I remember being like, Taylor. And he's like, what's going on? And I'm like, I do not feel good. So that was like one time where I was like, okay, I know my limit now is
Mm.
like an hour workout. And then I need to like chill. And I'll do like 4 mile walks, no problem. Like, so it's pretty chill, like for the most part. And remember, like, they tell you, even if you didn't work out before pregnancy, you should be like working out like 30 minutes a day during pregnancy. Like that's what they recommend, some type of movement,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's not really one of those things where
Is there a
like,
reason behind that, or
well,
what's
just because
the?
it's better for the baby, it's better for
Oh,
the
okay.
development, it's better for the blood circulation down there and everything too.
Mm,
And also like it's better for you and your chances of pushing out the baby, um,
mm,
like, without having to have future surgery down the line or like a C-section. So they just
mm,
say like, yeah, exercise is great. So in every single book I've read, they're like, exercise every day if you can, even if just 30 minutes walking outside, like whatever, just move, move
mm.
your body. But I did find something interesting. So, one of the books, I feel like we're gonna have to do a whole episode on like the pregnancy industry because I'm just like, I'm throwing my hands up, man, like from the stuff I've read. But one of them talks about your BMI and how much weight you should gain, right? Because that's a hot topic with pregnancy. So like I guess the lower your BMI, the higher amount of weight you can gain during your pregnancy that you need. But if you already have like a high BMI, so body mass index, right? So if you're obese or you're overweight, you shouldn't need to be gaining that much weight to sustain your baby during your pregnancy. However, if you're very underweight, you're probably going to end up gaining more weight, which is completely normal during your pregnancy. So it's kind of like if you had like a total,
Mm.
right? And if you're already starting like at the top of the total, right? You don't need that much more to hit it. But if you're starting lower and you're really underweight, then like yeah, you can gain more.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of in this category where my BMI was like 22. So I can gain, I believe, up to 25 pounds. Like that's what they recommend at most, that
Wow.
I should
Okay.
only gain 25 pounds,
Okay.
which is, that's a significant amount of weight.
Yeah.
And like so far, I'm obviously like, I gained 10 pounds like over the last year from Carnivore, right? So I was like, oh, I'm pregnant. Like
Oh
now it's gonna
shit.
like, yeah, yeah. But it's honestly, I've only gained like 6 pounds and
Okay.
I'm like during my first, sorry, yeah,
I
you
want to
probably
get
have
in.
questions.
No, no, yeah, I want to get into because I want to get into the weight side of things. But before we get there, because you're in a good train of thought here. So what are the books? What are the book? Can you remember? Do you have any off like the top of your head books that you were mentioning that maybe you would recommend, or books that you don't recommend? But just I just want to quickly touch on that, and then I want to go to the weight side of the.
Yeah. So as of right now, I honestly don't recommend a book.
Okay, that's good.
Like there isn't, I honestly want to write a book because I feel like um there is a book called Expecting Better, and it's by what's her name? It's Emily Oster, and she's like an economist.
Okay.
And so she found that there is a gap in data surrounding why doctors tell you like certain things, like, oh, don't drink or don't eat raw fish, don't do this, right? And she's like, well, what is the actual
Hmm.
data
Hmm.
behind these things, right? And so, like, I like how she approached it from that way. Uh, and I read through it, and there was some things where, give you an example. She was in her third, or I guess going into her third trimester, and she said that she had felt the baby kick all the time, and all of a sudden she didn't feel it kicking. And
Hmm.
so she went and drank a bunch of juice, like fruit juice, and ate a bunch of cookies to try to get the baby to kick. And I'm like, okay, like, so you're trying to give your baby a sugar rush so it'll kick again? Like it was like nothing was wrong. Like just sometimes they kick and sometimes they don't kick,
Hmm.
but it was just like she went into like panic mode, I guess, and like ate a bunch of cookies and juice. And like that just seems like, well, as you know, with me, like that would like really hurt like I would get really bad heartburn. Like I would be
Hmm.
like bent over with my stomach. Like that's so much sugar, especially when you're drinking fruit juice, which is like tons of added sugar as well. Anyway, I was just like, why am I reading this book from this person who like is literally like giving her baby a sugar rush right now? Like there's just weird stuff like that would come up, and I would be like, oh, this is like the mainstream like food etymology, right? Or whatever it's
Mm,
called.
mm, mm.
So like for me, I was just kind of like, okay, I need to find a book that's a little bit more holistic, talking about whole foods, like all that stuff. I'm not trying to go all the way, on the other end, but like,
Mm.
come on. I don't know, like if you have any thoughts on that, but
I,
yeah.
I mean, what I would add is that one, I acknowledge the difficulty of being whatever people say of being a carnivore when there's no, books out there from experts and things like that. Even though we know this diet, and I would like to get into the trying part of it and how long it took you. So we'll get into that. We'll bookmark that for a bit later. But I do want to acknowledge that it must be difficult. I mean, you are pregnant. It must seem a bit daunting because you don't have these carnivore pregnant doctors running around that but there are doctors out there. We just don't know too much about them and where they are, and they must start writing books. But secondly, I totally agree with you that there must be a lot of shoulds in the world if you read the books, and you probably find that if you read every single book on pregnancy, one of my favorite authors, Naval, said this, that if you read every single book, everything will cancel itself to zero because
Yes.
everyone will contradict each other. So there's going to be a lot of shoulds out there, like you should do this, you shouldn't do that. But I think if we've learned anything over the past couple of years, especially on this journey through the diet, it's like, what is your body saying to you? Like,
Yeah.
what is the wisdom in your body telling you? Like, clearly your body is telling you now, like, I cannot eat a fucking big ribeye in the morning. That's okay, that's
Yeah.
completely okay. I think I think it takes also a level of self courage to admit that because you've just been so strict with carnivore. But this is just a point in your life where I guess you have to adapt and change to the circumstance. So yeah, I just want to add that's very interesting that you would say that, and it's something that I'm sure a lot of people will be experiencing.
Well, I'm shocked, Josh, because remember I told you I was like, oh, I'm
Mm,
not going to change anything, because you go into things thinking like, I don't know, like I'm pretty positive too. I was like, oh, like this pregnancy is going to be like so easy, like cool. Like I don't have morning sickness. And then it started. But remember too, like the morning sickness, well, fingers freaking crossed on this one. But the hope is that this subsides going into your second trimester.
mm,
So like it's 3-3-3, right? 3 months first, 3 months second, 3 months
yeah.
third. So the hope is that it subsides and then I can go back to maybe eating like maybe, I don't know, ham sounds good. I don't know why. Ham sounds good to me. But like maybe ham and some eggs. I don't know. It's kind of early in the morning. I probably shouldn't talk about eggs right now. But we'll see about the eggs. But hopefully like there are some people, Taylor's mom, for one, she had morning sickness with Taylor throughout the whole 9 months of her pregnancy.
Oh wow.
And I was like, dude, like we have jobs. Like how, like, I don't even know. Could you imagine being like hungover every single morning, like and trying not to throw up?
I That must be very, very, very tough. Very,
My heart,
very
yeah, my
interesting.
heart goes out to anyone that is going through that or has
Yeah,
experienced that. And I'm just like crossing my fingers, like hoping that it comes to an end soon.
yeah. I hope so for your sake and ours,
Yeah.
so we can do
Yes, me too.
more podcasts.
Yeah.
So earlier you mentioned the body weight side of this. So
Yeah.
this is interesting because especially what we've spoken about of the podcast before, coming from the way the sort of image you've had of yourself, putting on weight when you were younger, even though you were ripped and had abs and thought you were like overweight or obese or whatever. So there was obviously some sort of body dysmorphia going on there, which I mean, I think a lot of people in the carnivore sphere have anyway. It's just we all
Yeah.
have come to this diet through different avenues, but we've all come to it from a sort of perception that we've had of ourselves as well. So how have you started dealing with that, or have you? Maybe you haven't, but what's anything to do with weight gain? Shoot away. Tell me what your thoughts are and how it's affecting you or making you think about what you're doing right now.
Yeah. So to be fair, like this is weird, but I'm actually delighted. I've only gained 6 pounds, which is a healthy amount of weight gain. Remember, the baby's like literally like this big, like
Mm,
it's freaking tiny, you know. But I am at that point right now where I think this is like the awkward phase because you don't quite have a bump, and
mm,
like it's just like it's literally just this. You can't suck it in, you know. Like I'll have to go on camera one of these days and show like on my story, like once this comes out and stuff. But like I can't suck in the lower belly anymore.
uh,
Like it's just kind of like it looks like there's literally like a burrito. So like if I play pickleball and it's super hot and I'm wearing a sports bra with shorts or something, right?
mm.
Like you don't know if I just maybe
Just had a
am
big lunch.
bloated and ate a little too much. Yeah, or if I'm pregnant. Like
Yeah.
you don't know. So it's actually that's I think the most annoying part is because like it's not a little cute bump right
Mm.
now. It's just like, oh well, Nicole's been like eating something else. Like she has a little pudge going on right there. So that's why I think it's funny.
Yeah.
Is because it's not quite anything. But again, like I thought I'd be more concerned, but I think because we eat well, we exercise regularly and like we're active, I think it just kind of cancels it out,
Mm.
like any weight gain, like, and like we're trying not to eat. Like, I think when you're pregnant, it's the time to be even more careful about what you put in your body, right? Because like your baby is literally relying on you, right? Like people get kind of wild during pregnancy and kind of just let like hey, I'm pregnant. I'm gonna eat whatever the hell I want.
Mm.
I'm gonna do whatever the hell I want. And it's like,
Mm.
no, dude, like what? Like, so the thing about pregnancy is that your baby and everything, like it only requires 200 more calories per day, which is not a lot, right? Like that, any doctor will tell you that,
Mm.
right? That's like the recommendation.
Mm.
That's not really a lot. For me, that's maybe like 3 sausages or something, 3 breakfast sausages like extra in the morning or something. Like
I
that's not
yeah,
a lot.
yeah. This is really interesting
You didn't
because
know this? Is this
no,
news?
no, 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 no. I'm just saying this is an interesting point because the amount of times I've sort of seen women use their pregnancy as an excuse to maybe, okay, wait, okay, let's just admit there are tons of hormones running through them, but maybe
Yeah.
saying something that they shouldn't have said, or but this is proliferated by movies and sitcoms and
Yes,
things. It's like
yes.
I'm pregnant, but then
It's the
also
mainstream
eating. It's the
narrative. It's the
mainstream narrative,
narrative.
exactly, and eating specifically. I know a couple of close friends, excuse me, that like did that, like where it's like, oh no, I can eat pancakes now every morning. I can just a whole bunch of pancakes with syrup
Yeah.
on. No, because I'm pregnant and I've got a baby inside of me. But if you're saying to me that only 200 calories more, that's not a lot of food. And
No.
I will add, for those that are concerned, my mom was pregnant with me. She was anorexic. She was vegetarian. She smoked. She carried on smoking. I don't know how long into my pregnancy my mom was smoking because she didn't know she was pregnant because that's how thin she was from being anorexic.
Oh my God.
She was told she could never have a baby, by the way. So she was anorexic, vegan, smoked, was still drinking alcohol while she had me. So if anybody's concerned, don't be, because I think the body is more resilient than people realize. And in fact, I read something. I don't know if I ever shared this with you, but I read something, an article that actually said that when you become pregnant, your baby actually has the capacity to heal your own body. So if you are ill or you have cancer or you have a disease of some sort,
Yeah.
the baby can actually heal your body. So the baby itself is like a healing, I don't know, thing inside of you that helps, which is very interesting. I didn't know that.
Well, I think so. Here's two things. On your point right now about like the healing thing. So, like, there's people where like they could be drug addicts and they find out they're pregnant and then they literally stop doing the drug because
Mm,
they don't want to hurt their future baby. So, like, something mental
mm,
and like nurturing and like that motherhood instinct takes over, right? Like, let's just say maybe that's maybe it's part mental, right? And like you're kind of going through, maybe you're taking more vitamins because you're pregnant, and now you're like, oh, my vitamin levels have evened out, like I
Mm,
don't feel as depressed. Or so I think it can be great for kind of like people honing in, not being able to drink, right? Like honing in on like just it's almost like a self-care thing. I'm not telling people like go out and get pregnant
mm,
and then like all your problems will go away. Like obviously not. But I do think there's actually a really big truth to that, because it puts you in a situation where you're not just doing something for yourself. You have to think
mm,
for the baby and what's growing inside you.
mm,
The other thing that I was going to add, well, yeah, so I think there's the healing part, which can be mental,
mm,
like we just talked about, but also what you're talking about is, I think, the hormones, but also the cravings. Like cravings are real. I think they
mm.
are pretty real. I started craving, this is really weird, but like macaroni and cheese. Weirdest thing I think I've ever. And, you know, so here's the thing. I ended up going to the store alone, which was a big mistake. And I saw this macaroni and cheese, and it was like the organic Annie's, and I was like, oh, the ingredients look okay. And I was like, like whatever. And so I forgot I had it. And then the next time I felt like I had the morning sickness coming on, I was like, oh, I don't want to make rice. I want to make this Annie's organic macaroni and cheese at 8 a.m. So yeah, that didn't go well. I forgot that
So wait, did you have it or have you
I
tried
ended
it?
up, yes, I ended
What,
up eating it. I,
at
I
8 in the
ate a bowl
morning?
of it. Yes. Well, like more like 10, like eventually when
Okay.
I like end up eating, but I ended up eating it and my stomach hurt so bad. Like
Oh gosh.
I don't even know what, like the pasta was made of like rice, but also like some type of bean.
Mm,
So like I should have known then,
mm,
like I should have
mm,
known like, yo, like
mm.
don't do, but anyways, like my listen to my pregnancy brain, just like being like,
Yeah.
okay. So that's one thing, the cravings.
That's so obviously this is about you being pregnant, and like I've said before, I'm not pregnant, but I've felt similar. I've had similar conversations with myself when I crave something because I'm a big fan of, like we've spoken about, metabolic flexibility, and
Yeah.
if you truly are craving something, fucking get it. Like, don't. Do you know what I'm saying? If you're craving something if
Yes.
you're craving something every day, that's not craving. That's an addiction. But after 2 months, if you, like I said, in Amsterdam and you want to try the best waffle ever, like
Or
go and
croissant.
do
Let's say
or
croissant.
croissants,
That sounds better.
like
Yeah.
go and do it. Don't deny yourself that craving. But you do realize afterwards, you're like, oh damn, like, well, yeah, that wasn't actually worth it.
No,
So
like my stomach was so messed up. And like, I'll just say this, but like, so your intestinal tract is a little bit slowed down when you're pregnant. Like, that's just a normal thing that happens.
mhm.
Um, so you can get like, I guess, constipated or backed up more than like you might have normally. And then here enters like macaroni and cheese, and your body's like,
Whoa.
whoa, like what is happening? So anyway, so that was like a time I gave in to the craving, and like I never crave anything sweet. It's always like salty or
Mm,
like buttery things, like thank God. But like, like whenever I've had something sweet and someone's been like, hey, like I have this like gluten-free dessert, you want to try a bite? Like Taylor will get something and I'll try a bite and I'll be like, meh.
mm,
Like it's really weird. And you know me, like before all this carnivore and everything, I had a gnarly sweet tooth.
mm.
So like the fact that I'm now pregnant and I'm like, nah, like that's okay, or like whatever, is kind of funny. Um, but anyways, yeah, like I just think that there's like people need to be reasonable when they're pregnant, and sometimes it's hard. Like I don't like going grocery shopping alone because like all I've talked about, also like a random thing, is like gluten-free Oreos. Because I used to, for those listening that know me, I used to like love Oreos, and I could just sit down and eat a pack of them like in high school. and I haven't gotten them, and I don't plan on getting them because I always get sick after.
Mm.
Um, that sounds really bad, but like I just literally like it's like gorging, like
Yeah.
it's like it's not healthy.
Yeah.
So I never get them, but I always am at the store and I like am with the shopping cart going by and I look and I go, and Taylor's like, don't even think about it. Like he's like, you're just gonna get sick. He's like, I've seen how this plays out.
Yeah.
It's not how you think. So like let's keep walking. But there is like if it's 200 more calories basically is our point.
Mm.
Like you it's not really an excuse to just be like, I'm gonna eat whatever I want whenever I want. It's like, no,
Mm.
dude, you have like something growing inside you that needs all the nutrient dense foods it's need. Like, yeah, like eat something if you're craving it and like that is gonna satisfy your craving, but like still be cognizant about what you're eating and like the
Mm.
ingredients, you know, because like that's what we try to do as much as possible because there's so much bad stuff.
Mm.
Um, by the way, I found the actual page in the book that we were talking about on the suggested weight gain based on your body mass index for pregnant women. So if you're underweight, so that would mean that your BMI is under 18.5. And again, this is like your weight divided by your height or some formula like that. You can like look it up online and find out what yours is. So if it's under 18.5, the suggested weight gain is 28 to 40 pounds. That is the most, right? So when someone says like, oh, like I'm gaining 65 or something, right? Like that's a lot. That's
Mm.
even more than like the recommended weight gain, which I still think is fairly a lot. If you have
That's
a
like
normal,
weight gain on top of your pregnancy, basically. That's like getting.
no. This is just like your. So they actually like when you go in for each appointment, like every 4 weeks, up until like towards the end, they weigh you every time, so they
Mm.
can see. Like they'll tell you if you're gaining too much weight.
But that's what I'm saying.
Like
So, like that suggested thing that you just said was if you've gained too much, it means that you are gaining now unnecessary weight on top of your
yes,
pregnancy, right? So that's what that's
yes.
for. It's like to, yeah,
Yes.
okay,
So
just to make,
basically this is weight gain from knowing you're pregnant until like it comes out,
mm,
right? Like that's the weight gain during that time. So it's just your overall weight, you know, during the time of pregnancy, like what it goes up to. So if you are over 40, but again, that's just for like if you're not anorexic, but that's like if you're very, very skinny, like if
mm,
you're underweight,
mm,
right? For people with normal weight, so I fall in this category with a BMI of 18.5 to 25. The suggested weight gain is 25 to 35 pounds. To me, that seems really high. Like it just does. Like
mm,
I just at right now, like in my mind, like if the baby's like 10 pounds, which would be a chunker, right? Like if the baby's 10 pounds and you have like the other things that support the baby, I don't know. 35 just seems like a lot.
mm.
Like, and who knows? Maybe like I will gain 35. Like, I don't know. Again, like this is all, but like 25 to 35.
Okay,
And then if you're overweight, so BMI is 25 to 30, then it says 15 to 25. So you see how it keeps going down if you get heavier.
yeah,
And then if
yeah,
you're obese with a BMI over 30, it recommends only 11 to 20 pounds gained. So it has nothing to do like, it has to do with your weight. Like it doesn't have to do, I feel
mm,
like, with like the actual, like, because you can still only gain 11 pounds if you're overweight. That's
mm,
insane, isn't
mm,
that?
mm.
That's like if the baby's 10 pounds, then like that means you should only gain 1 extra pound.
Yeah,
That's interesting,
yeah, and
right?
it just shows you how your body sort of either adapts or diverts most of its already like excess resources that it has to the baby itself, you know, if you are
Yeah.
overweight or underweight, or that's really interesting.
Yeah. But again, like we're not meant to like shame people if you've gained more than 35 pounds. Like it literally, like I'm only concerned about myself. Like
No.
I literally, whatever anyone else does, like I don't care. I'm just literally reading from like the OB, like, you know, OBGYN book of data, basically about like what's recommended,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, and that there's only like 200 extra calories a day.
Mm.
So,
That's really interesting. So I want to shift gears a bit and touch on the trying part of it and actually the process of conceiving a baby while carnivorous. So from my limited uh, perspective of it, I've heard from various people that it's not very common to actually do it on the first try. And um, what was your experience? Did it happen the first try? And if so, I mean, do you pin it down to your low tox lifestyle, carnivore, everything, all of the above? But what is your take on the actually for the people that are listening, just to frame it? It's like, I have a husband, whatever. We are so keen to have a baby, but we just want to know what process you went through so we can make it easier on ourselves. So yeah.
Yeah. So I first want to like give some context kind of to the background of like my thought process to all this. So 2 years ago, I started Carnivore because I thought to myself, hey, like I'm overweight. I'm not feeling healthy. I have stomach issues. I have all these problems. Like I want to have babies in the future. And if I don't fix this and get myself ready and like do the pre-work now, I'm never going to be ready and I'm going to have a very difficult time being pregnant, possibly getting pregnant, etc. So like that's kind of where this journey with Carnivore started like 2 years ago, right? Like that's kind of like I think was the biggest motivation for me was to be able to
Mm.
have the ability to bring a kid into this world and be able to not have my knee or my back in pain or have stomach issues, to be off all meds. So it was very easy, or I guess as easy as you can. So that was like the first thought. The second thing was I had been on birth control for 15 years. So I always had this really big fear in my mind because now knowing the things I know about birth control now and how it can really mess up your endocrine system, your hormones, um, there's different things that, it can affect like the uterine wall and like all these other things that, to get more scientific. So I was really nervous that going off of this, I was like, I don't know, I just had this like huge cloud kind of like following me around. And I'm like, well, shit, like I don't know until I try. And
Mhm.
that's really scary. And also you feel this clock ticking, because I'm 30. And I'm like, okay. So I got off birth control and I was off of birth control for a year. Or sorry, less than a year, I guess. Wow. Actually, that's interesting.
Mm.
Um, okay. Wow. I'm like discovering things while I'm on this call with you. So we always decided, well, we were in Europe and we didn't want to try then because how things were going and lockdowns and everything. And I don't know, it just seemed kind of scary to have a baby in a foreign country. And like you kind of want to like feel it out before you get pregnant and then
Mhm.
have to like have a whole nother layer of like figuring life out in a foreign country and everything. So we always said that we were going to wait at least a year being married. Okay. Um, Sorry, it's like getting boring now. I'm like, ugh. Okay. So we had talked to friends, and I just want to say this, like, we had never talked to anyone that got pregnant quickly. Like, I think I have like a cousin who accidentally got pregnant really quickly after she just had her first and then got pregnant with her second. But like overall, like friends and stuff that I've talked to, like, it wasn't like no one ever was like, oh, you just try the first time and it happens, or like, like we were looking at a time frame of like 7 to 9 months of trying, realistically. That was kind of like what we had read. That's kind of what people had like warned us about. Like, so they're like, hey, like try sooner than later, just so if there is any issues, you still have that window of time to address those. So it was kind of more like nerve wracking going into
Mhm.
things. So you're kind of like already like a little stressed out going into things. So we tried mid-March was our first time that we were going to try. And that was sooner actually than we expected because we were not going to start trying till June. Like we wanted to be married for like a full year and like all that stuff. But Taylor just told me and he goes, I think I'm ready. And I was like, okay. So like I ordered the ovulation test, like the thermometer, like I'm like tracking things. So I had an app that like tracked like my fertile window. But there's an ovulation test that you basically take and you take it like throughout the day. Like I think I did like 3 tests a day during like that week of like fertilization window. Um, and it's kind of like it's not, I don't know, there's nothing like super sexy about it. Like I'm not gonna lie. Like it's kind of like peeing on a stick and seeing if it gives you like the LH, which is a hormone that happens and it surges in your body like the day before you ovulate,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when the egg drops, you ovulate. And so I actually didn't even know if I ovulated. So if you don't ovulate, you can't get pregnant, right? So like that was like the first thing that I was really nervous about because I'm like, oh, like it's been days that I've been doing these tests and they're still not coming up positive, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then finally, like it just happened that my cycle was like a little bit later, you know? And
Mm.
so it finally like the thing was like double or whatever. They lit up that it was positive for like LH and I was like, all right, it's go time. And like at this point, you're also having like sex really often during your fertile window because you could mess up a test and you never know, right? So like I think I told you like towards the end of it, we're just like, whoa, okay. Like I need water, I need to rehydrate, I need some electrolytes. But we after you like shows that you ovulate, you try that day and you try the following day. And then you just basically wait for 10 days to see if you're pregnant or not. So, funny enough, we went to a festival and the test on the day of the festival uh, was, well, I guess it was positive. Um, or actually, wait, no, I went to the festival that day and I didn't know if I was because it was a day too early to test.
Mm-hmm.
So I like went to a festival that day in Boise, and like I had oysters and like just lived it up, which doesn't like affect anything. And again, like we were so chill during this time, right? Because we had just bought our house, we had like just moved in, like
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel like it was like a really chill time. We didn't really have a lot of like worrying going on, but I found out the next morning I peed on a stick and it was positive. So like that was like the end of March. So literally 10 days after you try, you find out if you're pregnant. And it's probably the hardest thing ever to like wait, to find out because you don't know.
Yeah.
So anyways, so to answer your question, we got pregnant on the first try, which is pretty crazy. And we were definitely not expecting that. I think that for the few friends that did know that were kind of helping me through it that had, babies before, they were like shocked. They were like no really like like and I'm like yeah okay. And Taylor kept saying, he goes, we're gonna get it on the first try. He's like, I know it, doing his like number one thing. And yeah, he's like number one.
Team effort,
So
team effort.
yeah. But I felt really relieved and like I like wanted to like just like cry my eyes out because
Yeah.
I was like, okay, it's possible, like it happened. But anyways, so that was that. And you have to remember too, like we purposely, like during this time too, of like conceiving, ate a very, very strict nutrient dense diet, right? Like eggs every morning with a protein, like steak every night for dinner, right? Like we're definitely like living our best carnivore lives.
Mm.
We have all the nutrients we need. I've been doing like hair tests to see my vitamin and mineral levels and everything's good, right? Um, and again, like we're also living a very low tox life,
Mm.
like no perfumes, um, no like synthetic anything in our house. Like everything is glass, or like cast iron pans, filtered water, filtered shower heads, like you name it. One thing that came back in my hair, Josh, that I forgot to tell you about was uranium. Okay.
I think I had some
No,
uranium or
what?
something, like a tiny bit.
It's
Like I
from
wasn't
water, which is insane.
I'm trying to remember. I don't know if it was uranium or what was it? Yeah, I
Or
also had something.
arsenic.
I think it might have been arsenic actually. It was one of those two that came
Okay, yeah.
back. Yeah.
So those are like in your water, okay?
Okay.
Which is like super crazy. So we have like filters on like everything. Like we only drink filtered water, like no plastics in our house, like we're
Mm.
just very like everything pretty much is organic. Like if we ever do eat a vegetable or like if we eat, berries, they're organic. Like if we I don't know, I'm trying to think of like other things. Like if we do eat something that's processed, right? It's like organic, like
Mm.
ingredients, like whole foods, right? Like single
Yeah.
ingredient foods, right? So we live this very low tox life, like by purpose. And there's been
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people that have had certain issues getting pregnant, and they go on this low tox journey, able to reverse, cysts from PCOS on their ovaries, stuff like that. So I think there is a connection between carnivore, low toxicity, right? Like not exposing yourself to aluminum in your deodorant, like are you wearing clean makeup products? Are you wearing clean skin products? Like what's going on with that? Are you exposing yourself to chemicals? Like there's everything, like, I don't know. There's just so many things. Like I don't get my hair done. I don't get my nails done. Like I
Mm.
now rely on clean makeup and no perfume. Like there's so many different things. And I think those have a connection. And I think that's why we were able to get pregnant on the first try. Like 100%. Like I don't, if I wasn't doing those things, I don't think it would have happened on the first try.
Mm. Yeah, well, I think that's really important to underscore. Like, I think that's the meat of this, not to
The meat.
unintended, the meat of this podcast. Ah, but it is. I mean, really, it is because a lot of people will be wanting to try and are concerned and have thoughts about it. And I think you've laid out a pretty significant sort of affirmation of your journey. And I think what you were saying is that even though you're craving these different foods now, and I would still say you are still meat based. You're
Yeah,
not meat based.
definitely.
You're just not meat based in the morning. but but it sounds like the before part and the during part where you're eating all those nutrient dense foods is the most important part. Like that was the most important part because whatever happens after that, and whatever you crave. But that part that you laid out, the before and the after, and the before and the during, was important that you're eating those
Yeah.
foods, which is really interesting. Yeah, and
It's like what I was gonna say to you is it's the control part too. Like you have
mm,
at some point you kind of have to be like, okay, like I can't eat steak at 9 a.m. right now.
mm,
And that's okay. I have to eat something that's kind of simple carbs and
mm.
we're gonna roll with it,
Yeah, you just
you
gotta, you
know?
just gotta, you just gotta let go. You gotta let go, and
Yeah,
I
but
know
while
you
you
had,
have it, in your control is what you're saying. Like while you have the ability to not have nausea every morning
yeah,
or, whatever, like do everything you can to
yeah,
make it as best you can, right?
100%. And I know because you're a type A personality that likes that control. So you seem to be doing very well, which is excellent. Now that I mean, so how long have you been when this was released? How long would you have been pregnant for? Just out of curiosity, how many
So
how
I'll
many
be 13 weeks I'll be in my 13th. I'll be
13th
13,
week?
no, I'll be 13 weeks pregnant.
Okay.
13 weeks and some days. Yeah. So
So
that's
how
just my second trimester, I believe.
okay, okay, cool. So how are you feeling currently? Like I know we've been through the before, the during sort of stage, but like right now, this present day, like what's your thoughts and any sort of parting thoughts that you can relay
I
on
would
this
just
journey?
say, yeah, I would just say like be kind to yourself, but just know that I think my opinion on morning sickness is that if you give into it, it'll win. So like try to go on a walk in the morning if you
Mm,
can, try to get outside, get in the sun, whatever you can do, just because I think it actually minimizes it and I feel so much better.
mm-hmm,
On the days I don't walk in the morning and Taylor like walks the dogs without me, I feel so much worse. Like I
mm-hmm,
feel like, I don't know, I just feel a lot worse. So I would just say like try if you can, and it's different for every person. Some people have it super super severe. Some people have their head over a toilet until 11 a.m. when they wake up.
wow.
Like it totally changes. Yeah, like so it's kind of gnarly, but I would just say like just try your best to like push through if you can, because I think that what helped me the most.
Mm,
But I'm not in bed, I'm not in the fetal position. I'm just like, sometimes I do nap. Like I'll be watching a show like late afternoon and like I'll just like nap randomly, which is nice. But it's usually like a 30-minute nap. But I feel really good. Like I feel it's really weird, but I feel extremely feminine.
mm,
Like I want to be wearing dresses. I want to dress up. I want to look super pretty. Like it's really weird. Like which is really odd. So I don't know, like we had like a housewarming the other night and I like wore makeup and like this little like white dress and like these white boots and everything. And like my hair was done. I had makeup on, like jewelry, but I just felt really good and like really feminine, if that
Mm.
makes sense. Like I feel like when you play into it, like the feminine side of things, you just feel like amazing. Like I feel elevated.
I have a
Wow, I sound
question.
like I'm on drugs.
I was gonna say I have a question though. So you had a housewarming. Did people not ask questions when you didn't have like alcohol, or how did you play
No.
that?
So a lot of people don't really question it now just because like
Well, I suppose,
Taylor,
yeah. I
yeah,
suppose
and
you've,
like
yeah.
and
Yeah,
also sometimes I just won't feel like drinking even when I've been like not pregnant, but I also like I've found dresses for this weird stage of having a burrito where like in my belly of
love
basically like
it.
it just hides it.
Mm,
So like it literally just hides it and it doesn't like sink onto your stomach. It kind
mm,
of just like just barely like hides it. So you don't know. You don't know if
mm,
I am or not, you know? You don't know what
mm.
I'm hiding under there.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. But I will say like my boobs are huge right now, which is amazing. So maybe that is also playing into the feminine, like girly side of things. But
Mm.
like all I want to do is just wear bows and like wear like knee-high socks and just like I don't know. So
Yeah,
so yeah, I
just
feel really good.
embrace it. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
and we're gonna go on like a walk later, and like I'm gonna do a glute workout today.
awesome.
So yeah, but again,
Well,
I'm lucky, Josh. Just know that. Like I think I'm lucky because I think that some people literally like that I've talked to don't get out of bed.
yeah.
Like it's rough. So
I so on my humbly unscientific opinion, I don't think you're lucky. I think you've worked hard to get there. I think that's just my opinion. I think the food that you eat and the exercise you do and the sort of cultivation of your own self improvements and stuff like that all plays a role, and having the help. That's what I think. Because
oh, thank
listen,
you.
like, yeah, if you're eating a shit, I mean, this podcast is mainly about eating a meat based diets. Like, if you're eating shit, you feel shit, and then if you're pregnant on top of that, you're probably gonna feel 10 times shit. So I think you're
Yeah.
probably doing serious damage control by doing what you're doing, and yeah, just keep it going. And I'm it's gonna be weird to think that in what's that, 7 months time,
December, early December
you're literally gonna show me a human that's come out of you
on my
on the
yeah on the
podcast,
podcast.
which is actually pretty nuts. So buckle up,
Yeah.
whoever's listening, like buckle up, because this is just the beginning. I'm sure there's gonna be many stories that you're gonna tell.
Oh
You know what I'm
yeah.
saying, going forward.
I will say there's one thing you can't avoid. And like the burping and the farting, I'm just saying, like that is actually real. And it's because your digestive tract like slows down. So regardless of what you're eating,
Mm,
I just want to like let people know that like it's gonna happen. So
yeah.
like buckle up for that because like I burp in the morning and Taylor doesn't know if I'm gonna throw up or not. Like I'll just like be in bed and be like, ah. And he's like, oh my God, are you like about to throw up or something? Like, you know what I mean? So and it just happens. Like it's weird. Like
Yeah.
your body just wants out of like this extra
Mm,
gas that your intestines is like pushing up. So yeah, I just want to say that. But there's gonna be so much stuff we talk about. Like we haven't even gotten into like natural versus hospital, like, the different drugs they, put in epidurals and different things on eating raw fish or not. Like there's so many
mm,
things that we're going to get into and what comes with the only thing that I'm nervous about is what comes with like sharing this, I think, is that like there's so much unsolicited advice. Like that's literally what people tell me all the time is that like,
mm,
hey, just a heads up, once you tell people you're pregnant, get ready to just be bombarded with advice that you did not ask for.
mm.
And for people being like, oh, you shouldn't do that. you know
Yeah.
so like that's what I guess I'm not looking forward to. Like the only thing that I have a little bit of anxiety about is that portion of things, right?
Mm,
Because like I'm just over here trying to do my best. I'm over here trying to shed some light on things and I just know there's going to be you know
yeah. Well,
people being like,
you've been
I'm
training for
awful
that.
for
You've been training for that
yeah.
by eating a meat-based diet. All the vegans attacking you,
Yeah,
saying you shouldn't be
exactly.
eating meat. So yeah,
Yeah.
this was super fun, and I'm sure super relevant to a lot of people. I'm very interested to see how people respond to this episode because I think it's very important, you know? So it's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
And we're honestly like just trying to help people. Like there's so much stuff and it's really hard to grab these things. But I just wanted to say, like, if you are the person that ended up gaining 65 pounds during your pregnancy, cool. Like that's cool. We're
Mm,
literally just talking about what I'm trying to do, what's recommended, whatever. And we just hope that everyone, everyone's going to have a unique experience. And in some way, if something in here can help, cool. If
hmm.
not, also cool.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, yay. Well, cool.
Cool. Well, we'll
All right.
see
Like and
you.
subscribe, everyone.
Yeah, we'll
Right?
see you in the
Like and
next one.
subscribe. Sounds good. All right.
Cheers.
Bye.